What is good, everyone? A-Rock Oakley back for another video. It's been a minute. I've been grinding out on the disc golf tour and have been doing some testing on um, a few decks and wanted to talk about a deck that I have had some really great success with in Han2 ECL. So I played this to a top four finish at PQ last season in Mobile, losing to the eventual winner Frank Myers of the Boston Network on Sabine. Had a great run and felt great about it. And when I was originally working on this deck, it was to kind of tackle the Han yellow problem because you could go wide, you can make their cunnings bad. You had answers to the Han leader in a lot of ways, and we were able to kind of press and do really good things because if they were just bouncing our stuff, they weren't able to pump and push damage, and a really well-timed ECL could steal some games. But the meta has definitely changed. With Django's gone, everything feels very different and very wide open. So I wanted to touch base on this build, and I call this one out of we have the Maz Kanata go wide, which we saw from great success from SIP in Lille, and then Crispy has been working on a data vault version that goes very big, and supposedly Loopy and the late night guys have a build of their own that is finding some great success, and they're keeping that close to the chest right now. So excited to see where that comes. But Han has a lot of places to go, and I put my spin on it as I call this the value Han, where I think we're just putting pressure down turn after turn, leveraging it very similarly to how a Sabine plays, but it's unit after unit after unit, and you're really pumping. And we're going to talk about some combos. And we're going to talk about some key moments. So the deck right now is pretty simple. The Clone Deserter to go along with the Battlefield Marine to boost the Sabine Masterpiece ECL on turn 2. Being really strong is something we want. I have had a Sabine's Masterpiece take out a 5 HP unit when I had a black one plus a Clone Deserter on turn 1 into a Sabine Masterpiece. So we can do a lot of really cool things, whether that was a Sabine into a Clone Deserter, whatever. So the only unit that doesn't work well with Sabine's Masterpiece is R2, and I stand by that. I think R2D2 is still probably the best unit to be seeing in the deck. Free 1/2 that helps you filter and find your deeper cards, which is great. So in those early plays, we're heavy on this black one because we're be able to go black one into Poe Dameron Pilot on turn 2 and start making use of the ping and really start pumping with the 5/6. I think that that is great. Um, I mean, this being a Green Squadron A-Wing or something different, or going back to another ground unit, could be a Luke, could be a few other cards, but I do like having the space presence here, and feels really good. But you know, the one drop package feels great. These are all impactful units, and we can do a lot of work with them. Now, moving on to our three drops, which can be turn one plays. Cassian being just an extra Battlefield Marine is great. We don't love playing Echo Base Defender or Sabine's Masterpiece or Blue Leader in those three drops on turn one, but they can be in a pinch. And if you just need to clean up their unit before they get ahead, maybe not bad to be a Cloud Rider in space with Blue Leader. One of our best turn one plays can be a Snap Wexley. Snap into Poe Dameron on turn two is real and can just win games outright and put your opponent in really awkward positions because this coming down early, they have to find ways to answer it. You're able to leverage, defeating upgrades to discarding cards from hand. You can do a lot with that play line. And Snap's piloting can help you find your pose, which I think is great. So we definitely want to be um, making use of that, which it can be either one, which I think both have insane value in the deck. We've added the Echo Base Defender to just kind of slow down some ground assaults. Being able a well-timed Echo Base Defender can really um, insulate a lot of damage coming from your opponent. It does die to a lot of easy stuff, but even if it doesn't, it just pushes some really good damage. So we do look for that. Um, so now we're on to some of the most impactful cards. Our turn two plays often are heavy in K2. Um, I think that these get played for three resources so often because they have an upside, heavy demands and answer. So if they happen to be a space deck, you can start racing space because this basically attacks for 2 units if you can get coordinate online, and that's pretty easy with this deck. So we're looking for that a lot. And K2 just does work. We can, he can trade well. He overwhelms over stuff. He does extra damage. You can use him as a discard. It just does so much. So the power of K2 is always going to be up there. Poe Dameron into the piloted ship is always very good, but don't be afraid to just leave him on the ground as a 3/1. Have the 2/2 in space if they're not contesting those areas, and look to go from there. I think it is a common mistake to just walk into a waylay or something like a takedown, something like that. It just feels bad, but this is still fantastic unit. And then up the curve, the Poes, the Grow Attack Pods, the Wreckers, the Adelphis are so sick. I think this card is one of my favorites to be playing right now. Gotta have the bright hopes for the Green Han, and yeah, Wrecker does work. And do not sleep on Gorilla Attack Pod as a 4/6 ready, 6/4 ready, whatever ready. It's great into any indirect damage decks. It's takes a lot to take out and just wins games. Uh, if you do timely this in the right sequencing, you can timely, ambush, play it, do its when played after, ready it, attack in, and boost your damage. So that's something you can always be looking for, which is super, super fun. Uh, yeah, Record just does his work. One of the most important cards that I have found has been Blue Leader, especially right now. Kira's playing that 3/5 Sentinel on the ground. Being able to take out Sabine Leader for 4 resources. Do your best to save actions leading up to that point to where you can. And don't be afraid to pass. And honestly, if you just play this down as a 5/3, you can figure it out the next turn if you need to go for it. So look into that. Heroic Sack, I use this because K2's in the deck and Poe Dameron's in the deck. It's 9 damage with Wrecker, it's 10 damage with Poe, it's 9 damage with K2SO. That's why it's in the deck, because this just represents a lot. Don't be afraid to cycle it and make use of it. Timely Intervention, also sick. A couple cards for the sideboard, Fang Fighter, Jam for the ramp games. Amazing card. We can put this out really early. Chewbacca into the heavy removal and bounce decks. General Rican, I think, taking inspiration from Crispy's list, that it seemed like a couple of the ping decks struggle with this big unit, and being that we have Timely and Energy Conversion Lab, this can become a 6/8 Sentinel ambush, and that's just awesome. So U-Wing, to me, it was U-Wing or Home One, and I think we're in a place where we're so leaning into making use of our Wrecker. I think getting to a U-Wing feels a touch easier sometimes and can be more impactful. Um, but I am between this and Home One at the moment still. So let's look at a couple things. So let's go on the cost category. Cards that we should be considering and looking at. The Maz Kanata build is super sick, but let's get to our 2s and 3s. So Heroic Renegade is one that we see in the Maz builds as a 4/1 on the ground, great unit, just presenting really, really good damage, and is kind of a menace. And then Echo would be the two that I would look at. They both can function as 4 attack units pretty easily, and they are spots that could easily fill in if we decide to cut back on the black ones and cards like that. So I would look into Echo and that one. Oh, and I do want to talk about one of my favorite smuggle cards in the Reckless Gunslinger is one that I've also considered putting back in. It's just a fantastic unit for so little, and it's an easy resource. The sheer amount of times this climbs you into getting the damage you need is phenomenal. So let's get to some more of the 3s. I don't like Luke because we can't cheat him out. Again, anything with 2 toughness just doesn't work very well in this deck. And yeah, we don't want it. So Akbar, better in the Moz build. Yularen could work, but I just don't know if this does enough. And but it might be better if we see an uptick in overwhelming barrage and we want to stay a little bit above that. So I could see Admiral Yularen making his way in. I know that there's people who have tried the bigs with the speeder. Not a fan. Think it's solid, but just not for me. Igor Escort Fighter could be a good card to come in. We would never cheat it out, but it could answer a Falcon if we can claim, deal with it before Han Green really gets out of hand. So definitely something to keep in mind. Yeah, I think that's a very solid option. I've been talking with my buddy Felomir about why I'm not playing for a cause because we don't have that many misses, and I just have stayed true to let's jam units, jam, 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 and go from there. But it's definitely something I've considered along with the General's Blade and the Darksaber, but I still feel like just going unit after unit, especially with Bamboozles flying, people playing main deck confiscates, you name it. I just feel like those lead to some really gnarly blowouts. Um, and in these three drops, the other one I was considering was our guy, Fighters for Freedom. As a Village Protectors, this has always felt good. Even as a 3-2 for 2 is still solid. 3-2 for 2 Saboteur is great, that can lead into it. If we were a touch heavier in red, I think, and we're pretty good with red, but I just feel like I'd want a little bit more to get extra value out of this. Maybe this is better when you bring in 4 Cause, so 4 Cause can potentially be worth 5. Yeah, stuff like that I think feels really good. If you wanted to lead in the Rebel strategy, you can go Fleet Lieutenants. Red 3 is another card that I have played in these lists and still considering as a really solid unit, but I think the Sabine's Masterpiece took this slot because I think Sabine's Masterpiece does more and is a threat on its own, which is exactly what I want from this value deck. I want everything to be a threat, and Red 3 makes everything else a threat and it's not really a threat itself. Um, so yeah, Sundari Peacekeeper, just terrible on the defense is why I don't like it, but is still a great unit and maybe needed with how fast decks are. We could make use of this restore. Definitely something I have considered pulling back in tech into if the games start going later. And now we're getting into some 4 drops where these 4 drops I think do a lot of interesting things, but they're fighting in a really tough spot of Heavy, K2, Poe, and Bright Hope. And I would even put Adelphi as a 4 drop because we often will play Adelphi on 4 resources just to put a 4/4 and cheat it out, and we could be bringing in Cham. But I have looked into a lot of these cards being able to play Echo as that good restore unit. Great on Energy Conversion Lab if you can discard a card with the same name, can do a lot of work and become a 6/6. Um, this Orbiting K-Wing I've thought about, but yeah, just if we need to get through Sentinels, it can be a 4/2 Saboteur, but it just doesn't seem as impactful. But I mean, we've been looking everywhere for every answer we can find. Um, Valiant Assault Ship is definitely something I've considered as a potentially better ambush unit into the decks that go really, really big. So I think there's a lot here to be looking at as far as cards we could be playing. Pillage might be something we want to consider as well. And on to our 5 drops. So this slot I don't think is as big. The only other card that I have considered is the Steadfast Battalion because if we can have an additional really strong attacking unit with Energy Conversion Lab that can reach and climb to certain leaders, kills Quinlan on the spot, kills Han Solo on the spot and survives, and just does a lot if our Han leader survives, that is. So definitely a card that I've thought about playing, but I do think it's just in the same spot as Poe, and yeah, it just doesn't make too much sense. Now, the other card I've wanted to put a little time into is the MC-30 Assault Frigate. This would be if I really think I need to win space more. Um, and just having an additional really strong unit in space that likely survives its ambush off of ECL or timely, can come out early and is an absolute clock. This card is wild. I think we're going to see a little bit more of this in the future if it can find the perfect tone, but I think this is one of them. Still have to be worried about some other cards, but And then if you go into the six slot, there's just not much. The only other card I'd play is Kit Fisto, and that's just because it's Wrecker at home, but I don't think we need more than that. And I do like the General Recon probably more, and it's hard to not play Pod being immediate damage. So as we go up, the only other cards I'd be looking to consider in this value build, choose sides, played in the Crispies version, absolute monster of a card to play. Give them your Mon Mothma, take their big unit, have fun with that, my friend. And yeah, I think that that is a fantastic line of play. I do think Radis is interesting in the crispy builds. I think Tantive 4 also has potential play to slow decks down, but I think if we're going that high, I would just rather be playing a home one and getting stuff back. So I do think that this is going to be the more contentious place is home one or Ewing for me, and I'm not sure. Maybe with how fast decks are, I think the home one might do more than the Ewing, but Ewing can grab two Sentinels and block things out, where the home one might grab a Sentinel, and that'll only be on the ground unless we go higher. So definitely considering it. And if we do go up in the space and like vehicles, I could see playing Salvage. I think that would be a really great card to consider. So when it comes to value, I just think Han is in such a great place right now, and I'm really, really liking this deck so much. And if you have any questions about the value build and how to play it, I guess it doesn't want to load the photo. Sorry, everybody. But you can see it right here. I'll link it in the description. Loving it. Some great plays. Lots of great ECL targets. Lots of great reach. Um, yeah. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Stay awesome, everybody. Catch you in the next one.